I'm sure you want to talk good things about your country because that's what you're paid to do. Arbitrary detention, torture, enforced disappearances, extrajudicial executions, all of which your government is accused of by the UN, human rights groups throughout Asia, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, the Committee Against Torture. The UN Committee Against Torture is certain that it's carried out routinely. It's received report after report that it's carried out routinely by your security forces. And you would have us believe that they've all got it wrong, and where Bangladesh is concerned?
I would not deny it, and I would not say that they have all got it wrong.
I'm asking you about the things that have gone wrong in your country. Your government, for instance, claims zero tolerance of corruption. Well, the boss of Transparency International in Bangladesh himself summed up the extent of corruption when he accused the government of going after only what he called the small fish. The activities of corrupt leaders at the top are beyond our imagination, he said. We don't see robust investigation or effective legal action against any of those big players. So much for the promise of zero tolerance for corruption. Paved the way for a high-profile documentary which was released this month by the Al Jazeera network, which alleged shocking levels of corruption among senior officials of your state. And your government's immediate reaction was to brand the film false, defamatory, and a smear. You didn't even bother to investigate first. That's not the response of an honest government, is it? Looking at the film, which was produced by Al Jazeera, here was a television team that was able to locate two high-level fugitives from justice, convicted of murder, whose elder brother just happens to be your serving chief of the army, General Aziz Ahmed. Apparently your own law enforcement couldn't find his brothers who were on the run, but they did. That's pretty embarrassing for you, isn't it?
Certainly it is.
Magically, just before his brother Aziz was promoted to head of the army, Joseph gets a presidential pardon. How did that happen? Is Bangladesh in the habit of giving pardons to convicted murderers who gun down their opponents on the street in cold blood? Is that what you do? You give them a presidential pardon?
Bastian, let me
My point is you have to be pretty well connected to get a pardon for cold-blooded murder.
Let me give you the...
Okay, Dr. Rizvi, the point is also, which the film brought out, is that your army chief knew perfectly well where his two other brothers were, the ones that were on the run, and apparently didn't tell the relevant authorities. Isn't that worth investigating? This is all just too close to the higher echelons of power, too dangerous to delve into. Isn't the fact that nobody in your country wants to delve too deeply into suspicions of high-level corruption, do they? Too many people disappear and end up dead if they say the wrong thing and ask the wrong questions, don't they? It's a fact of life in your country.
No.
How is it then that in a state which is supposed to have a functioning justice system, that these two fugitive brothers of your army chief, Anis and Harris, convicted murderers, actually are reported to have returned to Dhaka in broad daylight in 2019 to celebrate a family wedding? There aren't many fugitive killers who can show up at a big society wedding, mingle with the president and foreign dignitaries, unless they have protection right at the top. You know that as well as I do.
We are both. You are absolutely right.
In a democracy with the kind of free press that you've claimed exists in Bangladesh, all these allegations from Al Jazeera would be plastered over the newspapers and the broadcast media, but they aren't, are they? Something that the Dhaka Tribune sought to explain when it wrote to its readers, "The reason for our silence," it said, "is simple. The current state of media and defamation law makes it unwise for any Bangladeshi media house to venture into any kind of meaningful comment on the controversy." That's it, isn't it? You have cowed the media into submission and muzzled it, so it's become afraid of its own shadow. Are you proud of that?
If it were...
Amnesty International said that in the first 9 months of last year, more than 800 cases were filed under this act, with the loose language that you talk about, with many of the most prominent editors and senior journalists increasingly targeted. 800 cases with using this law, which your government apparently inherited. Your government doesn't seem to have any reservations about using this law, does it? Isn't it time to admit your law is nothing but a weapon
no.
to silence critics and suppress dissent? That's the truth of it, isn't it?
No, I would accept your criticism.
Last June, you even arrested a 15-year-old boy for allegedly defaming the Prime Minister on Facebook. The child was sentenced to time in a juvenile detention.
All right.
I'm sure you want to talk good things about your country because that's what you're paid to do.